LFFL Prime Time, episode number 8, getting you ready for week number 2. Give you some week 1 recaps, and then I'll give you a little preview for the week ahead. Now, LFFL, the granddaddy of them all. Matt and I played in our traditional opening game, which Matt won for the 6th time in the last 9 years. I've got to do a better job scheduling in this league. 72nd time we've met, which is really cool. Miles beat Greg. Andy got the better of Eric in a tight one. We had Todd getting a tight one over Josh. And Bill, the high score of the week over Phil. I actually put in the notes over. It was the 9th time the Bills topped 200 points in his career. It was the 112th time someone has topped 200 points in the history of this league, which in itself is pretty cool. So in week 2, we actually have a Super Bowl rematch on the docket. Matt versus Todd played in the first ever Super Bowl in 1993, won by Todd. Matt did get some revenge in Super Bowl V when he beat Todd. Matt does own the overall lead in this series, 34-32. We have Phil and Eric in a battle of former roommates, which is pretty cool. Phil holds the 29-23 lead in this series. Josh and Andy play in a rematch of last year's Super Bowl, won by Andy. Andy also does have the career lead in this series to the tune of 20-14. Greg and Bill are getting it on here. We've got Greg with the all-time lead 23-21 in the series, and I am playing Miles. First time we met last year, I actually won both the games, which is surprising because I didn't win a lot of games last year. So, LFFL 2. We have Greg beating the Merrills, Eric beating Miles, Todd beating Phil, Sean beating Andy, and Bill beating me in another blowout. Bill, second straight league high score. Mr. September is up to his usual September hijinks. This week, we actually have some cool games. We have 2 games with 1-0 teams playing each other and 2 games with 0-1 teams playing each other. So standings can look starting to already get diversified here. We got Team Merrill versus Team Miles in an 0-1 game. We've got Greg versus Todd in a 1-0 game. We've got Eric versus Andy. We've got Sean versus Bill in a battle at the top. And we have Phil versus I to see which one of us goes to 0-2. Phil, please forget to set your lineup because I didn't score a lot of points last week. LFFL 3. We had the battle of the Matts go to Matt Merrill. We had Greg beat me silly. We had Andy beat up on Eric by just 3 points. Phil beat Bill in a real snoozer. And Miles with a huge win over Todd, high score of the week. This week, in week 2, you're looking at Matt Brennan taking on Bill, Matt Merrill taking on Todd, Greg taking on Phil, Eric taking on Miles, and we have a Simon's family reunion this week as I take on Andy. LFFL 4. I was able to get the win this week with 177 points. Phil came in second. Eric took the bronze. I'm actually paying out the top 3 this year, I decided. The money's not a big deal. So we'll pay out 3 teams. That way 3 people get their money back. I am still keeping the standings the same, though. So you get points based on how many people you beat. I obviously am in the lead in week 1. So look out. I've already created the contest, so get in there for week 2. LFFL 5. We got Miles with a tight win over Slick. Got Greg, huge win over Sean. We got Phil topping 200 over Andy. Got Bill, 245 beating Todd. I put in here the notes. Bill's 245 was actually the 4th highest score of all time. Greg's still sitting on top with 256. And Eric beat me in a nail biter because Leighton Vander Esch broke his collarbone. Thanks for that. Coming up this week on Miles and Phil, Sean and Eric, Slick and Greg, Andy and Todd, and Bill and I. LFFL 6. Todd out to the early lead here in 2 leagues. He's up in February and in April. Got Slick in March, got Phil in May, got me in June, got Matt in July, got Greg in August. You'll see Todd and I are actually atop the standings right now, both of us having 4 top 3 teams out of 7 leagues. So that's why we have a significant gap. If I learned something last year, this league will change on a dime. 1 bad week, and you'll shoot up the standings or down the standings. So I'm sure this will fix itself eventually. LFFL 7. Got Greg out in week 1. Of course, this league was Greg's idea. So sorry about that, Greg. Did have Michael Thomas, really one of the reasons for his loss. Obviously, everyone else still alive in this league, but Greg, still a fun league idea. So I'm glad you suggested it. So week 1 in the books. Hope you had a good week. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Week 2 coming up. Get those lineups set and get ready to roll. Game time in about not even 4 hours from now. So good luck in week 2.